her after. In the last episode, one talked about what I do not like about Emily's and Charlotte's relationship and storyline. Let's focus in this and the next episode on the things that work for me and obviously for most of the ones who still love the show. At the beginning, I like that they take up where they left in the last episode. Though we see not that she called Nolan, it is a good sign that she contacts him first. Here they establish what will be her core relationship. Always when Emily gets new information or something goes wrong, she turns to Nolan. Before we only saw him like a stalker, always turn to Emily, but now the relationship begins to become more mutual. And I like that they really use the tapes to show us David as something like a real character. As I said before, we only get to see him through Emily's and Victoria's lens, so it is always nice to hear his voice and see him through his dad as a real person, at least on videotape. About the editing again, I love how they make a connection here with the close-up on his and her eyes. It is hard because her father is dead and you cannot come up with flashbacks in every scene to make this connection. Because Amanda was still so young as she lost her father, you cannot show us, like in other TV shows, deep conversations and advice he gave his daughter. So you have to find other ways, and I think they manage it pretty well. By the way, I like how Emily's character works here. They use Nolan to make it emotional and show the importance of this information. But Emily is doubting it on every level and keeps only rational thinking about this news. They make a really nice arc here in which she is at first not at all emotional attached and seems not to care about her new half-sister. But at the end of the episode, she really cares about her and Charlotte's emotions when she gets to know about her real father. I like Nolan's reaction to Emily's plan. It is the first time that he operates as Emily's conscious. He is even worried about Daniel. Emily's reaction to Jack and Fauxmanda always breaks my heart. Even though I like Jack and Fauxmanda and appreciate their relationship, it is so sad that Emily is alone and has to face losing Jack. I know she is with Daniel and he really seems to love her, but would that still be so if he would know the truth about her? In a way, her relationship with Daniel mirrors the one between Jack and Fauxmanda. Both men do not really know the woman they are in love with. And if they would know the whole story, it is not sure if they still would stick to their feelings. For Jack, it is obvious because he has an intact moral compass that he would not accept Emily's lie. As for Daniel, we do not know how he would react cause he is still in deep connection to his mother. I am not sure if he would be on board for destroying his family and his own legacy just on Emily's word. Especially when he gets to know how she lied and manipulated him. In Season 1, he does not know anything yet about his parents' deeds in the past, so he is still quite innocent. Anyway, I do not like that Emily still tries to get rid of Amanda. I know she thinks it is for the best, but in my opinion, jealousy is also a motivator here. If Jack can be together with her, she prefers him to stay alone, what is really selfish. However, I like how Fauxmanda parries all of Emily's attempts to make her leave freely. She is maybe, besides Victoria, the only person which Emily struggles to control. What is a major problem here is that Fauxmanda sees not the danger here because she does not know anything. In this case, it would have been better if Emily warned her with the truth about the Graysons. We see later in the last scene between Emily and Fauxmanda before she leaves town that she gets it after Emily told her the truth, what was overdue. As I said before, it would have been better for the story and for the two characters if they both would have worked together instead of against each other. About Declan's story in this episode. I do not like how Conrad uses Charlotte's relationship to Declan to get closer to her. He uses both of his children as bargain in the divorce from his wife. I know Victoria would have done the same and still does with Daniel, but that does not make it better. And it is even more worse as he puts Declan in. The Porters have not that much money and it is not fair to at first lure him with money for a special school he could never attend without the connections and money of the Graysons and then pull both away from him. I know it is far from the worst things the Graysons have done and even not the worst thing they will do to the Porter boys. But in this situation Declan is in and has to think about and plan his future. It is the worst thing they could do to him. I can relate to that because I was in the same position. In Germany schools are free and we do not have to pay for our schools, at least if they are not private boarding schools. But we have to pay for university, and I had to take a loan which I paid off only a few months ago. So this storyline with Declan is something I can sympathize with. I love that they use many different cuts from Mason's interview tapes. It feeds the appetite for more information on the backstory with David Clarke. And this particular piece tells us how tight David and Victoria actually were, and how freely David was with his trust and intimate knowledge only a girlfriend could have about him. By the way, it is interesting that if you watch the show first, you totally are not aware of the storm in the background. Even when Victoria's lawyer closes the doors with full storm ahead, I did not notice until I re-watched the show. So caught up I was with the plot that is developed here. I like this little scene with Jack. I think it is important to see that Emily is not trying to hurt him and kind of wants to protect him from Fauxmanda. After all, she is a violent criminal. It has been long since Frank was killed, but we should keep in mind that she was the one who killed him. The writers did a good job with keeping us forget what she is capable of, because it counteracts her later role as Jack's wife and, spoiler alert, mother of his son. But like real Amanda, Clarke-Porter aka Emily Thorne is not a good person. However, it is also the reason why they both hold a chance against the Graysons, because they are really ruthless people. About Fauxmanda and Victoria in this episode. I think this was the only scene in which we see Victoria actually talk with Fauxmanda. I wish we would have seen more of the two together. I know we have to focus on the relationship between Emily and Victoria, but since she thinks Fauxmanda is Amanda Clarke, it would have been interesting to see the relationship with Amanda from her perspective. It annoys me that they decided early on to avoid a confrontation between little Amanda and Victoria. We have no flashbacks besides the two in which Amanda sees her with her father. No one in which the conflict between Amanda and Victoria was acted out, because Victoria has avoided to meet her till the very end. It would have been interesting to see her perspective with flashbacks that focused on little Amanda. Instead, the little girl was just not important to her. That is really sad, because if she was really planning a future with David, she had to interact with Amanda and on some point become a mother for her. Odd that she never at least tried to approach her. Maybe she sensed the hostility of this little girl. But as she was the adult, she could at least try to make a move to make amends. Anyway, I like this scenes on many levels. First of all, the introduction with the shot of the strawberries. They are my favorite fruits and remind me of my birthdays with family and friends. Because my birthday is in summer when it is strawberry season, my mother used to make me a strawberry cake. So these fruits remind me of my mother and happy summer times. And about the strawberries in this scene, I still cannot figure out if Victoria tries to test her with this story about Amanda being allergic to strawberries or if it is true. I know they had to find something what could reveal the true identity of Emily, but it is a bit odd. In Season 3, when Sarah makes the wedding cake, the strawberries return with the question. However, Emily would like a lemon or strawberry cream cake. It is odd to see a connection here, but maybe that was something that they just let fall because it is a bit too complicated. In Season 2, they try it again with burn scars, but I think they did not quite think it through. I cannot remember, but maybe that was something from the original book The Count of Monte Cristo. A scar or mark on the body of Edmond Dantes with which Mercedes, his fiancée, could realize who he really was. I do not quite believe that they needed something of this because they already had the tattoo with the infinity sign. If you know the story behind this sign, you get really quick who the real Amanda is. Also, I do not buy her assumption about Amanda's behavior as being not fitting for David Clarke's daughter. I know he is introduced as someone who plays on the same level as the other employees of Grayson Global and as a banker surely got into a fancy business school. And even if he would have been someone who made his way through hard work and not money from his family, he surely belonged to the Grayson world. But as Amanda was thrown into the care system and even in prison when she was still young, Victoria must assume that her manners could not be that marvelous. I mean, how in the world could she even have the need to improve her manners when she has really other problems on her sleeve? But obviously Fauxmanda tries her best to be nice cause she is wearing a dress instead of her stylish short shorts. By the way, I like her more girly-like outfits with the polka dot dress and her curls fit perfectly to this cute look. I love her last sentence, "I don't take orders from you." The first time she said something like that to Emily, which was not that cool. But here in this situation it really is a proper defense because it tells Victoria that she has no power over her and that Fauxmanda is not afraid of her. The salvation at the end with Victoria trying to prove that Fauxmanda is not who she claims to be with a DNA test is a smart move. Because as I said before, it is very odd that Victoria did not detect this connection between Emily and Amanda sooner. And the twist that Emily can swap the test results with the help of her ally Ryan Huntley was nice. So we have this suspicion out of the way till season 3. Though they could have made a move back in this direction after, spoiler alert, Fauxmanda's death in season 2. Because if they really thought Fauxmanda was behind all that happened, the Grayson sons, especially Victoria, should have asked why it did not stop with her death. But I guess they were focused on other things. Now back to the actual episode. About Ashley in this episode. In this scene, Daniel asks the question, "What was mine all along? What happened to being Emily's best friend?" It seems they already try to direct Ashley's jealousy on Emily in another direction. She is not anymore only jealous over Emily's status. Maybe because she lost Tyler, Ashley seems to start to get jealous of Emily's and Daniel's relationship too. Spoiler alert, maybe they already knew that they would hook up Daniel and Ashley in season 2. For me, Ashley's plot gets thinner and thinner and her character gets more boring and annoying from episode to episode. Besides being Victoria's and later Conrad's ally and puppet, she has no real storyline or purpose for the show in most of the episodes till she leaves in season 3. That is sad because they tried to make her more interesting with her backstory in the flashback episode of season 2. If they wanted, they could really work with this. Maybe it was just ignorance. I hope for Ashley it did not have to do with a latent racism behind the scenes. Anyway, Ashley, Charlotte and Fauxmanda were the one characters which deserved a better storyline in season 1 and 2. And the 3 would have had the potential to make season 2 far better than it was. About Victoria's and Conrad's divorce. I think he reacts this hard because it still hurts him that Victoria is in love with David Clarke. His jealousy over this man was something that set the whole conspiracy in motion. It was his way to revenge what David has took from him. I do not think he hates Victoria or that he does this solely out of hurt pride. He is still very much in love with her and in fact always tries to win her back. So I think that this was an empty threat. Conrad, who loves Charlotte more than Daniel, by the way, would never hurt his daughter this way. By putting her on the spot and let her face all the brutal lies they told about her biological father, David Clarke. But he also wants to teach Victoria a lesson who tries to break free of him. So in a way this is an attempt to minimize the fallout of her actions. About Conrad and Charlotte. As I said before, they did quite a good job in capturing Charlotte's relationship to her parents. I like this scene because it shows how much Charlotte means to Conrad. While Daniel is obviously Victoria's favorite, sadly it is Charlotte who always was Conrad's favorite child. Maybe they made it that way to take full advantage of the loss when he gets to know that Charlotte is the daughter his intimate rival David Clarke. Or maybe they wanted to establish a theme with Charlotte's fragile and often hostile relationship to her mother. Anyway, in the last shot when Charlotte runs away, you really see Conrad's loss. Charlotte was always his weak spot as Daniel was Victoria's. So I was more than happy that Emily and the writers used this in season 3. About Daniel's proposal. This scene was just perfect from end to beginning. First, the setting with the boat where they, as far as Daniel knows, first met. Him keeping and wearing the jacket on which she spilled the drink. Her wearing this stunning golden dress that just screams wealth. And of course his sweet speech, who moves Emily and the viewer even more, as she can never be honest with him till his very end in season 4. The orchestra was a little too much, but it fits Daniel's character that he overdoes such things and tends to overstatement. I like that the rain seems to ruin everything, but instead makes this even more romantic. I do not know if they were faking it or if he was improvising and they shot by actual rain. But the rain kiss was just the perfect end of the scene. It always reminds me of one of my favorite kisses from another TV show I like. The Vampire Diaries, a totally different show I am obsessed with. Maybe because it started around the same time, or because it also deals with the loss of parents and loved ones. Anyway, the main couple, Damon and Elena, has this rain kiss in one of the last seasons, which is a fan favorite too. Spoiler alert. By the way, I hate that they all had a proposal scene. Daniel in season 1. Jack with Fauxmanda in season 2 and Aidan in season 3, even Conrad in season 2 after he and Victoria got divorced. But with her endgame Jack, Emily got no proposal scene because they rushed into the end in season 4. That was not nice. They only put the lame hospital scene in where Jack asked Amanda's father. It was nice cause that is a tradition and it seemed eating for Jack, but they surely could have put a flashback or flash forward in. For example, when Emily was getting ready for the wedding, she could have thought about it. That would have been a nice scene for the Gemily shippers. Anyway, Daniel's proposal was perfect because it really had all the things in it that meant something to him and his relationship with Emily. Evan thought everything was fake. You see in Emily's reactions that her feelings for him in this season are far from being just played. Again, I am not quite sure if Emily could have played this in such a good way if she had not fallen in love with Joshua Bowman in real life. The only thing I do not like is the ring. I know it is supposed to be big cause he is a Grayson, but for me the ring is just gross. I do not like the color of the diamond. Oh, the yellow really fits her golden dress and the blonde hair. But for symbolism, blue, red, pink or even amber would have been a better choice. Blue a symbol for loyalty, red for passion and love, and pink for romance and romantic reasons. And the style, with the bold stone in an open setting, is not my favorite style. I know most engagement rings have this style in America due to Tiffany's. But in Europe this is not such a thing, so I was very disappointed about the ring. I am more the type for rings like the one Kate Middleton got from Prince William. The ring with a blue stone and smaller little stones around him was first worn by his mother Diana and kind of family loom, something which they could have shown too. Though I do not think that Victoria would have helped Daniel with this, but maybe his father Conrad would have been an assistance. Anyway, something less modern with a little bit of history would have been nice. But I get as the Graysons are not royalty and new money, they maybe do not have such things. And in the scene with Declan and the ring of his mother, they already showed what they think about heirlooms. Cause they made fun of it that it was a fake ring. So I guess they just did not want to copy anything from royalty. About Victoria in this scene. Funny that they did not go to the beach house but back to Grayson Manor, so Victoria is the first to know. I love the tense mood here. From the beginning, Victoria tried to prevent Daniel from marrying Emily. Daniel's order speaks a lot about his relationship with his mother and his father. Victoria is the first one who should know about this, even though or even why she seems not to be quite happy about the news. Then Daniel wants to speak with Charlotte, the third important female in his life after Emily and his mother Victoria. At last comes his father. What could be more obvious? Speak about his daddy issues. About Conrad and Daniel in this episode. I like this scene with Conrad. It shows not only how much Conrad was or is actually still in love with Victoria. He is more than devastated and disappointed of her. It seems as if he really thought that after David was out of the way he could have a real future with his wife. I also like the backstory about his first wife and him meeting Victoria in an art gallery. These story elements will come back later on in Season 3. It is not the best backstory but interesting enough for me to be entertaining. I love that what he says about Victoria and Daniel's future relationship with Emily is actual true. Because Emily does cheat on him in Season 3 and she surely has a big secret that does not destroy their family as they are not having one yet, but surely is powerful enough to destroy their whole relationship. So Daniel's relationship with Emily mirrors Conrad's and Victoria's perfectly from the start. About Charlotte and Emily. This is one of my favorite scenes between the two and one of the seldom opportunities where Krista B. Allen can outplay Emily. Her line that she always wanted a sister is just perfect and heartbreaking because Emily can use her connection to Daniel to be some kind of a sister but does not tell her the truth. Instead, she is losing Charlotte in a potential relationship to her sister to Fauxmanda, too. It is just so sad that they did not strengthen their relationship more in Season 2. Instead, they drove Emily and Charlotte apart. Spoiler alert 1. Even more in Season 3 when Charlotte teams up with her mother to destroy Emily's and Daniel's relationship and avert the wedding. Spoiler alert 2. The impact of Charlotte's kidnapping at the end of Season 3 would have been far worse and emotional if they had a better and closer relationship in Season 3. They had some scenes in which they tackled it, but for my taste it was just too little too late.
I love you too.
So the crisis in Season 4 just seemed not that genuine and not at all surprising, as Emily and Charlotte never had a really close and good relationship in every season. About Emily and Nolan in this episode. This is one of my favorite scenes with the two. It really covers Emily's problems with her revenge agenda. How many people, and even more important, which people she can accept to get hurt or worse while she is playing her revenge game. Jack and Fauxmanda are the first real victims of her revenge agenda. Because both are innocent and not really involved in this till Emily involved them by taking Fauxmanda's identity and framing her. So Nolan is right initially, it is her fault that Jack got hurt. As I said about the first scene with him and Emily, I like that he is now playing Emily's conscience. He is the only one till Jack knows the truth who can tell her when she goes too far. And framing Fauxmanda maybe was a smart move but not a good one. Emily must have known that there was a possibility of him and Fauxmanda being hurt. By the way, I like that he finds really clear and strong words to make this clear to Emily. About Emily and Jack. This is the first of many scenes in which Emily gets confronted with the outcomes of her doings to the ones she loves. Throughout the show it was mostly Jack who was attacked and put into hospital, even in the season finale. It was almost a running gag because Jack was, besides Nolan, the one of Emily's friends who had to suffer the most during her revenge agenda. A miracle that he got through this and still wanted to marry her after all she put him through. Anyway, I like what they try to do here and in the next episode. With losing her ally Ryan Huntley and Nolan pointing out what she is likely have to sacrifice during her revenge agenda, Emily has her first crisis. That was something I always enjoyed throughout the show. Not only Nolan and later Aidan and Jack try to talk her out of her revenge plan, she herself has sometimes doubts when the stakes getting too high. First of all, it shows that she is not a ruthless character who stops at nothing to achieve her aim. And second, it is more interesting to see why she is changing her mind in the end. We get to this later at the end of this episode. About Fauxmanda and Emily again. This scene in which she finally gets to know the truth from Emily should have come far sooner. Instead of sending her away, Fauxmanda could have been a real asset and ally when she had known about Emily's plan sooner, or even right from the start. The whole relationship between Emily and Amanda could have been different. Like Mason points it out in Season 2 when he alleges an affair between Emily and Amanda and assumes that they both want to take revenge on the Graysons. Maybe this was even an alternate storyline which could have worked. Anyway, I would have liked to see Emily and Amanda work together more. Her reaction in this scene shows that she is even willing to help. And Emily's lame excuse she does not want to endanger her. When she put the tapes there and framed Fauxmanda, she did not thought about it, so either she is lying to her or Emily changed her mind. What I really dislike is where the love triangle between Emily, Amanda and Jack is going to. I get that Fauxmanda is dangerous and maybe not the best girlfriend for Jack, and that their relationship is built on lies, but so is Emily's and Daniel's. So why are we supposed to root for Emily and Daniel but not for Fauxmanda and Jack? And now that Jack has had his taste of happiness with Amanda, this should be it. More happiness he is not allowed to have. I cannot put my head around how selfish Emily is in this and the next couple of episodes. She says she does everything to protect Jack and Fauxmanda, but instead she is just protecting her revenge agenda and her relationship with Jack. Cause if Fauxmanda would have stayed, she eventually would have told him the truth, since she knows about Emily's plan now. About Daniel and Victoria in this episode. Without any exaggeration, the relationship between Daniel and his mother is one of the most important relationships of the show. Victoria is so afraid here to tell Daniel the truth that she tells him the lie that David raped her. Because she fears losing him and being all alone since she is divorcing from Conrad and Charlotte wants to live with her father. A fear of being abandoned that surely derives from her childhood when her mother abandoned her and threw her out. I was glad that they made it clear with the flashback that David was not a rapist, because for a little moment I believed Victoria. Nolan and Emily on the beach. I like how he tries to put his arms around her and she prevents him from doing it. Like he says Emily can only make baby steps in her true relationships. About the editing, I like that we see her having second thoughts and trying to put pause on her revenge and therefore on her relationship with Daniel. But as we get to see in the next scene, Victoria delivered for the first time a reason for Emily to renew not only the hate for her but also her commitment to her revenge agenda. It is something like a trope throughout the show that every time Emily wants to drop her revenge, Victoria does something which makes Emily even more committed to take revenge on her. And saying that her father is a rapist after all the horrible lies they are already telling about him was just that. Her look towards Victoria just says anything you need to know. About the new flashback with Conrad and Victoria. I get to like this one more and more with every rewatch. Especially Victoria's answer when Conrad says "I love you." I know that, too. Seems either she has never been that much in love with Conrad or that her love has run out after she fell for David. But in a way I feel sorry for Conrad because, like Daniel, he is truly in love and wants this relationship to work. But it never can because Victoria has betrayed him in many ways and is just too weak to leave him. Though it seems he has gained everything after framing David Clarke. In fact, he has lost Victoria a long time ago. I like that with almost every new flashback they switch between perspectives. First, Victoria is the bad cause. She betrayed David and made that plan to frame him to save Conrad and their son Daniel and their lifestyle, of course. So Conrad seemed to be a victim of his own greed and only participant of her plan. But then we see more and more flashbacks that show Victoria as a victim of Conrad's deeds and her being trapped in this marriage. So this couple is at the same time victim and origin of the David Clarke trial. About the last scene with Daniel. I love Emily's monologue here about commitment. It is one of my favorites and I use it very often in my YouTube videos. About the title Commitment. Again, we have different people and different forms of commitment. Obviously, Emily is at the end more than ever committed to her revenge ender. Daniel shows with his proposal that he is committed to Emily and their future together. And Conrad shows with his behavior that he is committed to destroy Victoria if she is leaving him. A threat which is surely not new to her. And Victoria shows with her newest lie about David that she only committed to herself and does everything to preserve herself from harm in any form. In my opinion, though, they sometimes try to show her as a victim, too. She is the most despicable person in the whole show. The lines really nail her problem about sticking through her revenge ender but still not become as bad as the Graysons.
But for me, commitment has a shadow side, a darker drive that constantly asks the question, how far am I willing to go?
In Season 1 and 2, Emily is not willing to sacrifice everything for her revenge. So maybe this is the reason why she finally succeeds in Season 3. Finally, she is willing to do whatever it takes to stop the Graysons. Even if it means destroying relationships and hurting people she cares about.